sleight of hand. It changed the way that I approach problems. It was a problem, so I think as a magician now, when I'm doing a movie, when I'm doing a saw trap example, here's one I can explain it. We wanted all the saw traps to be practical. I didn't want to use visual effects, so we would design them in forced perspective with mirrors. I learned that through magic thinking. I wanted to understand this whole kind of idea about esoteric thought because I wanted just to think differently. And I think that so many people are so close-minded to whatever they grew up believing. Mm-hmm. I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up in a Lutheran household. My grandfather was a Baptist minister. So I had this kind of sheltered view of the world. I've been lucky enough to travel the world with these movies, and I just recently went to Saudi Arabia, and I had a very sheltered view of Islam. And then I go there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's this, it's this, it's this. And my whole, I guess, mentality of that culture shifted. And that's why I think I'm so fascinated with all of this esoteric thought, is it completely shatters all of these preconceived notions and open my mind up to believe and accept a lot more that I maybe wouldn't have believed or accepted if I did not read that book.
Yeah, and a lot of these ritualistic things that we bear witness to at a young age. I was raised Catholic as well, and eating the body of Christ, drinking the blood, like these are things that seem fairly normal as a child, and as you grow up and kind of have a removed sort of sense of what this is, a bird's eye view, if you will, of what's going on. And I had that happen to me actually when I was in my early 20s, and at that point I was still kind of practicing religion a little bit. I would go to church with like friends and stuff, and at one point I was at a baptism, and it was a Catholic baptism. In walks the priest, but like dressed in like these golden robes. He had a scepter, and like following him were these people with like this smoke, and everything was gold. Somebody was holding a big golden book.
That is a ritual. You were going to a ritual.
That's right. And I'm watching this stuff, and it's kind of like hitting me now because I'd gone every Wednesday night. We'd have like prayer night, and there was music. It was beautiful. Like people would congregate, and they were all lovely, and everyone was really nice to each other. It was all normal. But then I started to look at it like, whoa, what's going on here? And when they baptized the child in this giant, like a stone basin,
an altar.
Yeah, and they put water, and I remember there's a lady. This always this has always stuck out to me. They go to put water on the child's head, and it kind of only grazed the child's hair, and then he went on with his thing. And a lady in the back goes, "You didn't get him, right?" And I'm thinking, surely this is only symbolic. And then he's like, oh, and then he puts more, and now it's in the baby's eyes. The baby's crying and everything. And at that point, I was like, wait a second, is this symbolic or is this literal? And that really shifted how I see all of this. Now I'm like, this must be symbolic. And if it's symbolic, surely we don't need all of this. We don't need all of these, bells and whistles if it's just a mind state, right? But for me, yeah, that really showed me that even the things that I was, like you're saying, really accustomed to and never really questioned, all of a sudden from a different perspective seemed occult, seemed a little foreign to me.
So much, I think that I'm in a unique position being in Hollywood and getting to work in movies, seeing how much the esoteric thought is ingrained in certain things. Some of my favorite, I love graphic novels. Some of my favorite graphic novels are written by some of the biggest occultists. Alan Moore, who most people would know from Watchmen, From Hell. This guy is a true magician, esoteric thinker. I remember I listened to one of my favorite books is something called The Invisibles, which is very much based in like esoteric thought, but it's a graphic novel. He had a YouTube video off a lecture he wrote for a book called Disinformation Guide of the Occult, I think is what it's called, where he talks about chaos magic. And things just clicked for me in those, like the words they were saying, ideas that they had, and I realized how much of our life is a ritual or magic. The idea of saying I love you to me is magic, because you can say I love you to someone, and those words change that relationship with that person. So you've put an intention out there, you said I love you, and now all of a sudden your relationship has changed with that person. These little things I never thought of before, so things just started connecting for me that never did before. How much of what we do is ritualistic. I mean, you just went through, imagine that same thing of a Catholic church, but put it in a dark underground cave, and that same thing, all of a sudden, that becomes satanic, that becomes whatever. so much of it of society
And that's a good point. I mean, even we would, and there's this. I don't know. I don't know if there's any truth to this, but it sounds true. But when we spell things, right?
Yeah,
Like it's an actual spell. You're casting. You're saying, "Hey, go outside," and I send this letter across the world, and the person who reads it then goes outside.
you have said something and they've done something.
You
create
haven't
action.
even said it.
No.
You just.
But that is an action. So
Mhm.
that, and I think that's. But something else that I found fascinating was this idea that magic is just something that you don't yet understand. So if you go to a caveman and hand him a lighter, that's magic.
Mhm.
But when you actually understand the mechanics of it, it's not. I always find that fascinating because I've looked at things as a kid and I was like, oh my God, that's magical. And then I learned them and I'm like, it's not magic, it's this. So how much of these things that we hear about or read about is just, I forgot who said it, but it's just magic is science not yet defined.
Yeah, Arthur C. Clarke, and
Yeah.
sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Exactly. And I just wonder how many things like that we see that soon will no longer be magic, it'll be science.
Mm-hmm.
There was a book I just got it. It's amazing. It's huge. I mean, you can't hold it. It's a Manly P. Hall.
It's like a secret teachings
of all ages.
Yeah.
Tashin just put it out,
Oh,
and
wow.
it is. I mean, it's this big,